Girls of Reddit, what things do guys do to impress you that make you cringe? Discuss their muscles, sexual prowess, how much they can drink before puking, how much they drank last night before they puked. A man once bragged about how many women he had slept with, and without transition, asked me out on a date. He went from talking about Pound Town to asking me downtown. It was, sadly, not a joke. This is my mom's story, but I think it has to be the silliest thing a guy has done to show off for a girl. He had picked her up in his car and was speeding around the highways surrounding Boston trying to show off. Then they approached a toll. Instead of just paying the toll like a normal human being, this guy took a handful of quarters, chucked in the receptacle for coins, and shouts "Keep the change, bucko," and speeds off. As I tell this story, it occurs to me that this man might be my father. Immediately bragging or showing off within 5 minutes of conversation. That includes how much you make, your job, etc. One guy at a bar last week grabbed my arm to shout in my ear, "I had cancer when I was a kid." Yeah, don't do that. Equating their worth or validity as a human being with the car, in any way whatsoever. Its make, its model, its size, etc. I once had someone introduce themselves to me as "I'm so-and-so. I drive a Lamborghini." He was bright, intelligent, charming, successful, and didn't have a clue about himself. Try to sound too intelligent in conversation, texts by throwing in an excess amount of uncommonly used words. Usually this happens discussing things I like, as if they're trying to one-up me on their knowledge of the topic or impress me with the fact they like it too. When guys give me a resume, or tell me why I should date them. "I'm real buff, I'll treat you real nice, I make lots of money, I'll buy you gifts." Like I'm some sort of a shallow brainless wit that is looking to hire a boyfriend. Yup, telling a girl why they should date you is basically telling the girl why she shouldn't date you. If you're so desperate that you have to give out a verbal resume, it's obvious you have bad luck with women, and for possible good reason. I personally like when a guy, who I find attractive, doesn't give a shit. And I don't mean in a douchebag way, I mean he has his own life and doesn't need a girl to make him happy, but if he found her, he'd be sure to commit. A person who is happy with themselves comes off as the best suitable mate. Crazy driving. Maybe once I've known you for a while and understand that you have total control of your car, I'll be more comfortable with you driving fast and reckless, but until then, showing me how you can drift around a corner just makes me think you're being reckless with my life. Please stop. Tell me how many girls they have slept with. Most of the time they are lying, and if they aren't, then if a guy is trying to impress me, I'm probably too busy being impressed that they're making the effort. Having said that, the last guy to chat me up kept bringing up the fact that he's read all the Game of Thrones books and so is never surprised by the TV show. I failed to see why this was such a huge point of pride, but I guess literacy is never a bad thing. He wore a shirt with 2 arrows pointing to his biceps that said "Welcome to the gun show." Cringe and laugh. Follow me around the gym and strategically place yourself where I can see you lift. I'm busy, bro. Also, to the one guy who found it necessary to do 1-arm throws right at the foot of my bench with 100-pound dumbbells, you drop it on my foot, I will end you. Not impressive, annoying as F. Guys at the gym that start grunting and thrusting dramatically while working out when a female is present. The biggest one for me is lying about the things he's into just because I said I was into those things. If you've never seen Blade Runner, for example, don't say you have just because it's my favorite film. I can always tell when they're lying about this and I don't think it's sweet. Another thing is demanding to pay for everything. I appreciate when guys pay, but I like to pay once in a while too. This isn't the 1950s and I have a job, so let me treat sometimes. Edit. I want to clarify that I do appreciate being treated to drinks, dinner, etc. Who wouldn't? It's only when I offer to pay and my date refuses to allow this is when I cringe. I don't think this behavior is super common, but I have experienced it with at least 2 separate guys. Just my preference, and it makes me feel good to be able to treat my date sometimes. As a woman of circa 30 with big boobs, I've seen a lot of that. Some of the things guys think will impress me are truly bizarre, and I can only assume they're ideas found in some Mars, Venus BS and legitimized by women who act like impressionable idiots as part of their flirting strategy. General alpha behavior. Yes, you may be stronger than me. But wrenching things out of my hands because let man do the job, or telling me what I think or should think is not something that will get you under my skirt. Following up on that, aggression and hostility towards others, especially other men. You think I need protection? Okay, fine. You think you need to pound your chest and bare your teeth at every passing male? I'm out. Bad-mouthing other women. You may think that telling me about that one chick who was so ugly and fat will be hilarious, and will suggest to me that I'm not ugly and fat and we can laugh at her together, right? All it suggests is that you're an abrasive asshole. Also, sexism. Yes, there are men who think that dropping remarks like women should not be allowed to drive will make me feel so awesome that despite their hatred for all that is female they still stoop to interacting with me. Or something. Don't know. Bragging. If you're doing cool stuff, I will want to hear about it. But cool stuff does not become cooler when you adopt a condescending, braggart tone. I have a friend who travels a lot and he can always tell you what he saw and why did he think that particular spot was interesting, and he tells you how cool these places were, not how cool he is for having gone there. Whether you're skydiving or playing League of Legends, tell me how great that activity is, not how great you are. Speaking of negative behavior as if it were good. The fact that you got blackout drunk, do drugs, have eaten someone, have hurt someone, slept with a girl and never returned her calls, break law while driving is not a good thing. Quit behaving as if it was a good thing. They ask me if they can help me with my math homework because I'm holding a math book. I then explain to them that I'm a college professor and don't need their help. Constantly call me sexy, beautiful, etc. when they've just met me. Example, hey, what's up? I think you're sexy as hell, we should hang out. It makes me feel like a piece of meat and makes you look shallow. Went on one date with a guy. He'd been an extra in some movie where he'd actually had a line addressed to the main character. Now, don't get me wrong, that's neat and we're seeing the movie after dinner just for that 15-second part, but the guy seriously couldn't talk about anything else, unless it was how famous he is now, or the autographs he thought he'd be signing after we watched it. He spent the entire meal talking about himself and the 2 days of his life. I only felt a little bad when we watched the movie and his scene had been cut. One time a guy was showing me some picture he took on his phone. As he's scrolling, tons of nudes from other girls pop up in his camera roll. Like WTF dude, this is our first date, I don't want to see sketchy pictures like that. At least save them to another album. Dick pics. I'm 37, on OkCupid, and 2 days ago a dude tried to send me one a day after we'd exchanged phone numbers to arrange a date. He is in his late 30s, early 40s. Went out with a dude I got set up with. He seemed okay, albeit not my type. But I'm like whatever. We'll eat and have an alright time. Nope. We get to the restaurant and as soon as our Latina waitress leaves he starts spewing all of this garbage about Mexicans, saying they're lazy and that he wanted a new server. Awful. I just looked at him, went lament okay tasted as a sip. and broke out of there. I once went on a second date with a guy who came to pick me up. I live in apartments and try to be super considerate of my neighbors all the time. As soon as I get in his car he starts revving his engine super loud. A, I'm not impressed by that whatsoever, and B, I'm sure none of my neighbors appreciated the noise. That was our last date. Constant sexual talk. I'm quite open to flirting, sexy talk sometimes, but it doesn't have to be a part of every single conversation. For some reason at the university I go to it's a really big thing for guys to brag about how broke they are. This is almost always at the bars where they are spending copious amounts of money on drinks. Aw man. I'm so broke. I have like no money and that's why I'm drinking hams all night. It's not impressive, and coming from a low-income background it pisses me off. No, you are not broke, and if you are it's only because you're walking around in expensive clothes and going to bars every night. People who are actually dirt poor do not brag about it. Why is this a thing to brag about? Trying to act like they know more about a subject than they really do. People know when you're BSing. I respect people more for humbly saying I don't actually know very much about that so I can comment. In the same vein, acting like there's no possible way I could know more about math or science or politics than them because I have tits and a vagina. I don't like loud, obnoxious guys. Sure, if we're at a bar and you're drunk and yelling that's one thing, but to just be loud and obnoxious all the time embarrasses me. If we're getting coffee the people at the other end of the patio shouldn't know what we're talking about.